Welcome back. Mino here, and today we're going to do something a little different. I even have notes in front of me instead of winging it like I normally do, so bear with me a bit. This is, of course, 7 Days. I love this game, and I've put a whole lot of hours into it, but one thing I can say for all of its greatness is that there's a steep learning curve. New players can find it intimidating, even frustrating, to use some of its systems, and so I wanted to do a quick series to take some of the sting out of that. With 1.0 and experimental and the console release right around the corner, I thought this was a great time to go over the basics. It's going to be a lot of information though, so I wanted to do this in chunks. This video is going to cover the menus, settings, general game mechanics, things like that. We'll get into a tips, tricks, and how-to in another video in the near future. But with that, we have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get to it. We're going to start on the actual new game menu because there's a few things there that will probably slip right past you. Now, when you start a new game, you're going to get this screen right here. Now, most of this is going to be pretty self-explanatory. Enter a game name, pick the map you want to play, and you can figure all that stuff out. What I want to talk about is mainly over here. First, the XP multiplier. Now, tempting as it is to go up, there's a reason not to. You see, the game scales its difficulty partially based on your level. So the faster you level up, the faster the game's going to get harder on you. Which normally not a big deal because, hey, you're leveling up. But because of the way that skills progress in this game, that's not necessarily a good thing. We'll get more into that later when we get into the build menu. Right now, take my word for it, you don't want to push that much past 150 at best. Now that said, let's look at some other settings. Under the Advanced tab is the next thing I want to talk about. That's the player block damage, AI block damage, all of that. Now, when you see block damage, if you're like me, you're going to think that means if I'm blocking, that's how much damage gets blocked. Oh, that's not what it's referring to at all. See, this world is made of blocks. Think of it kind of like Minecraft. It's just everything has a shape to it. The block is that shape. So if your block damage goes up, you're going to break through doors faster, you're going to mine materials faster, you're going to dig holes faster, you're damaging the world blocks faster. And the AI block damage is the exact opposite. The lower theirs is, well, the less damage they're going to do to your base when they're attacking it. So keep that in mind when you're making your settings if you want to make things easier or harder on yourself. In the same menu, you can also just turn enemy spawning off and turn creative mode on if you want to play around with things and kind of learn what all the recipes are. And when I show you the build menu, you'll see why you might want to do this for a minute. The last thing you can set on this page that's interesting is the daily quest progression limit. That's how many quests you can do for the trader that count towards moving towards the next tier per day. So 3 is the default, meaning if you do a 4th or 5th mission, you're not helping yourself beyond the mission rewards, which really at low tiers kind of suck, meaning you're kind of wasting your time. So that's just a personal choice there. And now that we've gotten the basics out of the way, I'm going to start a new game real quick. We'll hit up a random world, and I'm going to show you how a couple of the in-game menus work before we dive into the actual world interaction. So, off we go. Now, I wanted to drop into a new world because I wanted to go over the challenges window first. It's the most simple, and it's the easiest to burn through. You'll be going through a lot of these challenges early on, and once they're gone, so better cover them early. Pretty simple. You punch a tree, you pick up a rock, you punch a bush, you craft an axe, you get a reward. and on you go until you finish that top row. And once you've done all the initial challenges, you can just clear out the bonuses, and that'll open up the rest. Now, all of these, they're their own little challenges that you get bonuses for, but by finishing a whole row, you get an extra treat from the trader. So, it's worth clearing those out. Anyway, speaking of traders, once you clear that first row, you get a marker to your first trader, which is going to be Trader Rect. Right now, we got to get back to menus, because menus are awesome. Let's go to a later game, because I have stuff to show you there too. Now over here, we're just on day 8, but you can already see on the challenges menu that we've burned through the majority of these. There's a few left, a couple of biomes we haven't gone to, some building stuff we haven't done, but a lot of that got knocked out quick, so that's why I wanted to show you early. You might recognize this. This is the remains of the triple Lindy. We tested that in an earlier episode. That was fun. But I want to show you how this stuff works over here. The first thing I want to talk about is the actual world interaction. It's the easiest to understand, so we'll start with that. That's a forge. That is a workbench. That is a cooking station. Pretty easy to understand from any survival perspective. Each of these makes their own thing. You'll have to go through their menus to see what they build, but that's easy enough to figure out. The trick is that if you tap it, you get access, but it looks like once you place it, it's there forever, because you can't really move it unless you hold the button down. They don't tell you that part. If you hold down the button, you get a little radio menu that you can open this and use it, or you can just pick it up. Like that. And if you pick it up, it gets added as an item. One single item. There's no weight determination in your item slots. It's just the number of items that you have, so feel free to pick up anything you want. You can do that with most of your built placed objects. You just have to make sure that they are emptied out, and then you can pick them up. Very handy for moving bases, or if you don't want to just abandon everything. And that little hold to interact trick works with pretty much anything. See, like our bicycle, if you just tap, you pick it up. Not a big deal. But if you hold, look at that. That's where you can repair it. You can get into add its mods. All of its little sub-functions all live there. So if you're ever wondering what something does and you can't quite figure it out, hold down the interact button instead of tapping it. You're going to have a lot more options. There is, of course, a caveat to that. Now watch this. We're going to place that down. And oop, all of a sudden holding down E is not doing anything. We can't pick that up anymore. Well, the reason we cannot pick that up is our land claim block. I'm going to show you where mine is. See, my land claim block is sitting right here. If we hold it down, we can make it show its bounds. We can go outside and kind of see where those are. Alright, so you see this big green box going around here? That's the boundaries of that land claim block. Anything inside of this, I can move. I own it, so I can pick up my workbenches and forges and anything else in here. But anything outside of this box, like that dew collector we just dropped over there, well, that's just where it is forever. The only way to pick that up again is to build a land claim block that is inside of this area. But only one land claim block at a time, so that one dies, and we lose everything inside of that, unless you repeat back, which can be a real pain. So make sure you know where you're putting things down before you put them down. It's not just those extra interactions that holding down the interact key helps with. You can also do this with the building blocks. Notice all of the handy dandy things we got here, like picking shapes. There's an ungodly amount of shapes that you can pick, and all of them have names. Stairs, hollow, railing, metal, right, too. Yeah, that's fun to remember, right? So you can memorize your favorites, or you can just hit this little basic shape there. This is going to be most that you'll need. There are a couple of bonus shapes that I want to get into, but we'll save that for the next video. Anyway, once you picked your shape, not only can you determine what it looks like, you can determine how it sits. So you can go into advanced rotate, start flipping that around, and it'll hit any direction you want. That works with pretty much any shape too. So you can kind of go nuts with that. And while we're on the subject, just a couple quick notes about building blocks. They act different than other objects. You can put them inside or outside your base perimeter and still pick them up. So that's nice. They expect you to have a hammer or nail gun later to upgrade these, but you can use your stone axe. Just right click. There you go. As long as you got the items in your inventory, that'll work. So there's just a couple more things I wanted to cover before we consider the basics covered. One's going to be the leveling system. Now, I did say it was a bad idea to go above about 150% on the XP modifier, and I'll show you why. Now, the difficulty does scale partially on your level, but when you look at the levels that you can get, you'll notice the standard perception, strength, fortitude, all that. Brawler, if you'll notice, you do more damage, doesn't teach you anything. Let's go over to Gunslinger. Look at that, you find more parts, more ammo, you do more damage, doesn't teach you anything. Now where you're learning the actual skills is going to be over here in the perk books. You get crafting skill magazines and books in the game. You get that mainly from looting and from mission rewards. This is what actually teaches you how to build things. So, if you gain levels faster than you find magazines, you set yourself behind. Magazines are everywhere too. So you just got to give yourself time to find them. And speaking of that convoluted mess of a menu, that's where the last thing I wanted to show you is too. And that's going to be the building menu. Now this, I would really take your time and study. I mean, you can go online, find some wikis on this. Just load a world with no zombies. Take your time playing around with it. There's a lot you can build. The tutorial does not walk you through much of it, and you'd be amazed. Like wrench, look, you can build a wrench. Never mentions that, but that's how you want to harvest all of your vehicles. Things like a bone knife. You can build a bone knife. It does not mention that, but that's what you want to harvest animals. So make sure to look through that list and find what you want to find. Now, there's a lot of stuff you won't be able to build right off, like say like a cooking grill. That requires an anvil. It'll show you the little symbol of what you need. If you want to build some armor, let's say, that needs a workbench. So it's not hard to figure out what you need. It does show you pretty clearly. You just have to kind of manually look for what it is. So if you don't know it's there, you won't know to look for it. And I think that just about does it for the basics. I'm sure there's some details that I've missed, but I intend to do a follow-up video where we do a first week run, kind of go through some base building basics, first horde base, what to prioritize, things of that nature. We have plenty of tips and tricks, and I'll try to catch anything that I missed. Make sure to let me know in the comments if there's something that I just blatantly left out, but I think this should be enough for you guys to go out there, start conking some heads and having some fun. So, go out there, start conking some heads, have some fun. Thanks for joining. I'll see you on the next one.